Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse here as well. Busy times, Patrick. I think we're going to jump right in because we've got to talk about the Twins, the Gophers, the Loons, maybe a couple other things aside from this. Paul Chryst getting fired by the Badgers. But we got to start with the Vikings, as we always do, or almost always do this time of year. They are 3-1 now, Patrick, after escaping London. I don't know how else you can describe a 28-25 win in which penalties play a outsized role, in which the last play of the game is a field goal that hits not just the upright, but the crossbar before basically landing inches short that would have tied the game and sent it to overtime. I mean, that is an escape in the classic sense of the word, because Patrick, Vikings were in control of this game, or at least threatening to take control of this game at various points in the second and third quarter, settled for a lot of field goals instead of touchdowns. At the end of the day, Patrick, it just kind of feels at this point anyway to me that the only thing that's changed from this year compared to past years, when they've stumbled out of the gate, is that they're winning these close games instead of losing them. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference in what I'm seeing on the field aside from the result at the end of the day.
That's absolutely right. But that also, the more you think about it, has become the secret of the NFL's success. That
yes,
the last 2 minutes, we don't know who's going to win about half the time now. And they're all these toss-up games that Zim lost last year by, giving up all those points at the end of the first half and at the end of the game. They are not doing that. And they 3-1, and they got the miserable Bears coming to town with that pathetic offense on Sunday. So they certainly should be 4-1. And you can't really complain about that, because with 7 teams going into the playoffs, if you're 4-1 and you look around, there's one unbeaten team. Everybody else is, got at least one loss, more than even the Chiefs have one loss. So it's hard to complain about. But as I said on Twitter, they're 3-1, and they've used the 3 major elements of football to win. They won the first game with defense, they won the second game with offense, and they won the third game with refereeing. So those are the three. Those are the 3 major elements in deciding the outcomes of football. One of my big problems with the NFL is I cannot stand to watch officials decide. Is the incredible impact of a bunch of officials who run out of the tunnel saying, "Boy, I hope I get to call a lot of penalties today." And they drive me nuts. And you cannot move the ball 40 yards and pass interference on that Latimer call to set up that touchdown, because those were 2 guys hand fighting down there. And you got to take into account, I don't know. I think I'm a believer in the 15-yard pass interference penalty.
I think I am too.
That they have in college football. I mean, that's a grievous punishment to a defense, right? 15 yards. That's pretty good.
That's enough. That's about as much as a penalty should be.
Yeah, and now they might be afraid of, that everybody would grab everybody when there's a 40-yard touchdown going to be played. But I mean, to put a game ball on the 5-yard line or whatever it was,
right,
on that play, it's just bad. But that said, I thought Cousins was good. Okay, they really got the kind of the same conservative vein, as you pointed out, that Zim always got in those field goals, in those, when they're down there in the red zone and they figure out a way to kick a field goal. That's pretty much the same as it was. So you're right. There's not much difference except you're 3-1, and that's good. And you'll be 4-1 for sure, unless that would really take a screw up to lose that game Sunday. So that would, I watched them for a while yesterday.
Oh yeah, me too. They're bad.
They're unwatchable, man. They're horrible. But so I guess, I don't know. They're you're playing the Saints with the Red Rocket at quarterback, and
right,
without their running back and without their receiver and all those things. But that's also football. You got to take advantage of the other team's injuries and hope you have fewer than the other team. That I always say when we're saying who's going to be good, in the NFL, tell me how many of their regulars are going to get hurt.
Yes.
If they lose 2 regulars for the season, they can win, unless one of them's a quarterback, of course. And if you lose 6, you can't win. So that's, and right now they're reasonably healthy. I mean, Smith's been in and out of the lineup, but beyond that, not many problems. Delvin Cook's fine, and Irv Smith is back, and I know they don't have quite as much faith in him as they had when the season started.
No.
But yeah, I mean, they're 3-1, I guess. And, I guess not going over and enjoying London might have been the secret to their success. They had more discipline than the Saints did yesterday. I'll say that.
Well, they did. I mean, it's, whether that showed up, what the cause of that is, maybe a mystery, but looking at the team stats again, Patrick, I mean, they were outgained per play, both rushing and throwing, just as I think they were against Detroit. But just as they were against Detroit, they kind of did the little things, and especially drawing the calls. I mean, Detroit had all of those pass interference, illegal use of the hands penalties, and New Orleans, the same thing. New Orleans did not get a single first down via penalty. The Vikings got 5 first downs by penalty, including those 2 big ones on that last touchdown drive, the one that we were talking about just a minute ago. First it was the 3rd and long where they called the I think it was Thielen again, or maybe it was Jefferson. Someone like jammed him at the line. They called him for illegal use of the hands, and that shouldn't have been a call. And then the long pass interference call to Thielen. So they definitely got some breaks along the way, including, like we said, that field goal that doinked. I think Cousins, to your point about Cousins, I think he rallied and played better. He still doesn't look entirely comfortable though in this offense, and maybe that's to be expected. It's 4 games in, and he's a guy who's gotten used to playing a certain way for a decade, and now Kevin O'Connell's saying, "Well, I see this when this is open, I want you to let it rip, not go to your second or third read." So I think he's still trying to. He's a people pleaser to a large degree, I think, and I think he's still trying to play quarterback the way Kevin O'Connell wants it to be played. And I think there's an interesting little kind of byproduct there. And I think some of those interceptions are probably a result of that, maybe even including the one on Sunday. So that's something for me to watch too. But you're right. At the end of the day, they are 3-1. It's a league where you're right. It does come down to those last plays. And for whatever reason, they've made those plays in the 2 games that went down to those moments. And whether it's just, luck, law of averages, and this will all even out, and they're not going to be great this year or not even going to be good, or whether they bank a bunch of wins against bad teams early on, and then that carries them to a 9 or 10 win season in the playoffs. I mean, that's certainly possible too.
Yeah, and I mean, you watched Green Bay yesterday. They were terrible that they somehow won a game against some guy I never even knew existed on the planet playing for
the Patriots' third string quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. Some guy from Western Kentucky, and they were awful. Rodgers was awful. He and his receivers. So, I mean, the Lions are a clown show. They've got 45 points yesterday and still managed to lose. And the Bears are terrible. And the Packers are, who's going to win? You already got 3. That means you're going to get 9, aren't you? I mean, even if you go, 6 out of 50, you win 6 out of 15, right? For sure. You get 9. 9 will win this division. They all stink. Green Bay is terrible. Their defense is not half as good as it was supposed to be. Rodgers is just playing for the money. He don't care anymore. I mean, 10 for sure gets you into playoffs.
Yes.
And wins the division, and 9 might in this division. It's like the AL Central. And I don't think there's much to complain about right now. That opening Packer win will serve them well all season long, because if you looked at it and the way you'd play, that you'd say, okay, 2-2, they should be 2-2, something like that. But having that extra win right off the bat when they really did play well in the opener, it comes in handy. But they are great. They're not, as I keep saying, they're not nearly as good defensively as I thought they were going to be. But their offense it's okay. They did as you said, kind of fall back into that let's take the field goal this time, and that was kind of distressing to see if you're a Viking fan. But I don't know. I've kind of gotten into the mode of the Vikings is okay. Boy, I watched the Chiefs. I mean, they were great last night, the Chiefs, but I watched the Chiefs a couple of weeks, and I said, yeah, they didn't look good, but they won. So you kind of almost have to develop that attitude. They didn't look good, but they won. That's kind of what you got to look at right now, I think, in the NFL, the way that goes.
Well, and the preference would be, last year they were maybe the best 1-3 team after 4 games, and if they're the worst 3-1 team after 4 games now, I think you would prefer to be the worst with the best record.
I think Green Bay might be the worst 1-3.
They're not good. Yeah,
they're not good. I mean,
no, they're not.
Well, I mean, Rodgers basically said that yesterday. So, but everybody's, all the good teams are 3-1. You got 1-4-0, the Eagles, and they were playing in a driving rain yesterday, and were in big trouble against Jacksonville for much of the day. And it's amazing. I mean, Jacksonville was are they going to win a game last year? And now this year they're competitive because they got to, spend a little money, got a couple of guys around the quarterback, and it really is a league where you got 3 or 4 really good ones, and all of them are in the other conference. Maybe the Eagles are one of them, but and then you got 20 of them are the same, or don't you think? I mean, doesn't it? Like 20 teams are the same. This isn't baseball where you have. There's a real separation, right? There's not much of a separation from the 6th best team to the 25th. I don't know.
Well,
which was what makes the NFL so popular.
Well,
you don't know who's going to win, and you don't know who's going to win when there's 2 minutes left. That's what makes it so popular.
Well, nobody can spend more than the other team, and everybody's running the same stuff. So it's like, did the play work or not? A lot of it depends on, was there a penalty called? Did the offensive line manage to give the quarterback the 3 seconds he needed versus the 2 seconds he needed? I mean, it's all very fractional in this league right now. That's probably why you see these outcomes that are so close.
Yeah, it is. It's and I wonder if they've been doing a lot of lobbying with the league to let people not beat up Jefferson quite as much, because he got 10 again yesterday.
He did.
And Latimer was a pretty good. Supposed to be a pretty good corner. And that's, they kind of got, I think the fact that they were calling all those penalties helped loosen things up for him. And you got to get him, that to me, the thing that, the game 2 and 3, the really glaring thing was how Jefferson didn't do anything in 2 straight games.
Yes.
And you got to do something. So he comes back and catches 10 balls yesterday. So that's encouraging too, I would say.
Including the one for 41 yards, I believe. And I think his high was 11 over the last 2 weeks in terms of distance. So that was good to see too, him getting some chunks of yards, not just receptions as well.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
I think you brought up a good point about the NFC North. And I think if you are a Minnesota sports fan right now, you cannot complain that you don't have a chance to compete within your own, whether it's division, conference, whatever. The Twins were only in it all year because of the AL Central. We'll get to them in a minute. Gopher football, even though they lose to Purdue on Saturday, a game that really, if they would have won that game, they would be in huge amount of control in the Big Ten West. But still, Patrick, I mean, Iowa lost, Wisconsin lost, and fired their coach. There's nobody good in the Big Ten West. I mean, like PJ Fleck said after the game, everything's right in front of us, and that's probably something you tell your team after you lose. But in this case, it's true. They can still do everything because because they're still pretty good, and that's a terrible Big Ten West.
And I love the fact that the Gopher, I'll use the word apologists, but hardcores, they're still tied for first in the West. Yes, so is Northwestern. There's 5 teams 1-1. So
Yeah.
I mean, the Illinois game is probably, they go down and win that one, they're back in control, right?
Yes.
And they get a week off, and Illinois has a game this week. So they have that advantage too. They get a week off to get their act back together. But boy, talk about you were saying that the Vikings are basically the same as last year. Talk about same as last year. That was a same as last year offensive performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, and very strange
Purdue,
too.
it was just like Purdue is not known for their rock rib defense with the Jeff Braun program, and to get I know Ibrahim is fantastic, but is the drop off that dramatic that you can rush for 47 yards? That was incredible to me.
Yeah, Purdue was controlling the line of scrimmage, which was surprising. It just, I think Purdue was better than I maybe thought they were, but the Gophers were flat from the beginning. It's one of those games where you watched Purdue and the Gophers on the opening drives, and sometimes that can be a little bit overrated. Football has a lot of twists and turns, but it was kind of this. I felt the same way the week before when the Gophers played Michigan State, and it was like Gophers go right down the field on Michigan State. Michigan State gets a quick 3 and out, and you're like, God, you just look at these two teams right now on the field, and you can tell not necessarily which one is better every single day, but which one is better today. And you just looked at it and you're like, Purdue might just be the better team today. They had a certain energy and juice to them that the Gophers just didn't seem to have for whatever reason. And then whether it's expectations, whether it's 4-0, yes, but we still got to judge them a little bit on the competition. Maybe Michigan State turns out to be a pretty lousy team too. I don't know what it is, but they didn't look good. And you're right that the offense certainly regressed, especially based on the comparison to the week before against Michigan State.
Well, I think one thing is you played the Patsy non-conference schedule, and then you went and played Michigan. But I just don't get the idea. Home for first Big Ten game, full house for the first time, and actually fans showed up and they had a nice crowd. And you come out of the tunnel halfway flat. I don't get it. I don't know how that works emotionally with a player. You would think that maybe it's the 11 a.m. kickoff. I don't know what it was, but it is funny. As good as this, much as everybody loves this coach, including me, I'm all on the bandwagon.
You're in now, yeah. You and Harvey.
I'm all in. He does. They throw this clunk, and then when things aren't going well, he gets weird, like, okay, we're down on our own 28. Let's go for it on 4th and 1. Why? It's the first quarter, right?
Right.
What are we doing? What's the hurry? I mean, we gotta get our boys fired up here in the middle of the first quarter and give them the ball down on the 29-yard line. What the hell was that about? He does that. He does some weird stuff when there was a try to fake punt when there's no reason for it. He does. He does some weird stuff. I don't think he's a great game manager. I thought with the new, the new offensive coordinator back, I thought these kind of clunker games might be behind him. But I mean, with the old, now new again, offensive coordinator back, that they would. I don't know, that offensive game plan could have been written by Mike Sanford, new coach of the Colorado Buffs, but that's another story.
Oh yeah.
But it was, I mean, we've been, bad mouthing him since he left. And then they came up with a nearly identical performance to what we saw from him last year.
Yeah. And it's just too bad because, it does seem like a lot of times with this team, and not every time, but a lot of times with this team, it's right. They get to that one game where everybody's ready to buy in, where everyone's like, okay, you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And you beat a team, in Michigan State last week that, you were favored against slightly, but, road game against a team that had been ranked. You're like, okay, that was a pretty dominant performance. Right. It feels like right when everybody is fully ready to jump in and believe in the Gopher football team, this tends to happen. I think it happens with Gopher basketball sometimes. It happens with all teams, and that's probably just regression to the mean sometimes. But it's unfortunate because those are the momentum turning points in your program where everybody starts to be like, okay, maybe this really is different now. And then now everyone's like, well, nothing's changed.
Yeah, well, that is. And I mean, didn't you? I mean, we were all, the conversation last week was, well, you look at the schedule, the only game they can lose is Penn State,
Right.
the way everybody else is playing. And then now all of a sudden you say, oh my God, they're going to be a 5-6 point underdog at Illinois, unless Illinois were to get hammered this week or something. But, they're going to go down and play Illinois, and it's going to be like the games with Wisconsin used to be, because Bielema is there and they're playing run it down your throat football. And they got, but they, as I said, they got a week to figure out their act. But that was a strange, they were still 10-10 in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So,
it was right there still. Yeah.
Their defense was good again. So,
yes,
it wasn't Joe Rossi's fault.
No.
But man alive, I was shocked last night, and all of a sudden, about what time? 9:00 at night, you get the tweet that Paul Chryst is out.
I know.
You see the buyout, $16.8 million. We were all going nuts when Nebraska decided to give Scott Frost 15 instead of 7.5.
Right.
And they pop up and fire him. He's won 72% of his games, something like that.
Yeah.
and he's the public Paul Chryst and the behind the scenes Paul Chryst. And I got some friends down there who cover him who love him, Tom Oates and those guys, because when you sit down and have a discussion with him, it's not that boring guy who does post-game conference. He's one of those guys that drop the F-bomb about every seventh word. And, we saw the real Paul Chryst when they were playing Miami in that bowl game. And they showed him on the sideline, they were using the turnover chain.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good bowl game, right? And they were getting beat in the first half, and then they came out and kicked the hell out of them in the second half. And you could see him on the sideline say, take that turnover chain and stick it up. He gave a little thing. I've liked the guy, but they were losing it a little recruiting wise. Their offensive line is, they're running for 2 yards. They ran for 4 yards on Saturday against Illinois. Now,
right.
You got to know that they take the sacks off the. They take the sacks off the rushing yardage, and they keep their stats different in college than they do in the pros. But their trademark stuff was gone. But man alive, this new AD, Chris McCarron, who was a former player, and obviously was probably handpicked by Barry, and to come up with $16.8 million. You know what this shows you? The Big Ten has gotten way too much money on coming in.
Yeah.
Because they have no compunction about throwing dozens of millions of dollars into their football programs. It's, just whatever they want to, but talk about an impulsive thing. Okay. You can, what do they think this team is going to, all of a sudden pop up and go to the Rose Bowl or something for that kind of money. Now they love this Jim Leonard, right? The defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
They're saying that that he's an interim, but if they do anything down the stretch, he'll be their new coach. So
yeah,
Karen might have played with him for all I know. I don't know if they're the same age or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few stab marks in Paul Chryst back, as a matter of fact.
Well, it was labeled a surprise in the stories I've read. They off to a rough start this year. They lost to Washington State, was it, in the non-conference? And they lost, obviously got blown out by Ohio State and then Illinois.
I just ran through them. Yeah. So, it was a lousy performance, but man alive. And but I do think my favorite thing of the weekend is Colorado firing another coach, Carl Durrell, who they ended up stumbling into after Mel Tucker left, Midnight Mel, as they call him out there, and they make Mike Sanford their interim coach. The guy's a complete stiff. Every time he's head coach, he was been terrible. Every time he's assistant coach, he's been terrible. And they seem to be so screwed up out there. It's unbelievable. But Michigan State, here's another thing, Mike. Michigan State lured away Mel Tucker from Colorado for $95 million.
Yes.
They gave him a $95 million contract. Last year, he brought in like 20 transfers. Michigan State, they stole about 8 wins that they didn't deserve. And now they stink, and they got him for a $95 million contract. So, another year, Mel has 2 bad years, or fire him, own him $50 million. It's incredible what the money that the Big Ten's got on the way, and they have no conscience anymore. They just fire guys if they're unhappy with them and don't care about the millions. They could start a baseball program again in Wisconsin for $16.8 million.
Yes.
But anyway, it was a shocker that Chris is gone. But he lost 2 to the Gophers, so maybe that's Chris beat him twice. I mean, the Fleck beat him twice. So they won 2 out of the Gophers have won 2 out of 3 after not winning one for 14 years. So
maybe the Big Ten. Maybe the Big Ten is shopping at the Dior store, Patrick.
Yes, they are shopping at the Dior store. Now, my original reaction, we go back to Carlos Correa now, who, by the way, nice salary drive by Carlos here the last month, right? The team has stunk, but he's been fantastic.
Yes.
And trying to just kind of let everybody know that when he hits the free agent market, he's still really good. And maybe you can see this for 4 months instead of 1. But so I wrote a column about it for Saturday, because my original reaction, when you see that quote about the Dior standing alone, you say, okay, he's saying, I go to the Dior store.
Right.
When I go shopping, I don't know where you commoners shop, but I shop at the Dior.
Well,
but when you find out the context of it, he was saying, if you're trying to sign me, you're going to the Dior store.
Yes.
I'm a Dior product. Not that I go and get all my clothes at Dior or all my bags or everything at Dior. So
right.
It was nice trying, and I had a little fun with it. It was a great Jim Rich question. We all love Jim Rich's questions. It's been at Channel 9 for, we all love Jim's questions, trying to kind of like reading one of my columns. You don't know where the hell he's going with it. And he kind of drifts off into the side. And he starts asking a question. You can go out and have a sandwich, come back, and
yes.
just get ready for the answer. But I like him a lot. And he asked the question kind of a roundabout way. And then he says, basically, Correa, who's pretty sharp, says, if you're going to shop at the Dior price, you shop, which is me, you got to pay the price. So
yeah, his exact quote was, when I go to the mall and I go to the Dior store, when I want something, I get it. I ask how much it costs and I buy it. If you really want something, you just go to get it. I'm the product here. If they want my product, they've just got to come and get it. Now that was, you wrote the column, which you started with a story from 1978, which was very much in the style of your columns, which I appreciated. That was the day after the news. That was the day after the news had happened too, right? Yes. That was the second day.
Right. And it was because I immediately went on Twitter and made fun of them, but I didn't really know what the context was. I wasn't there that night. And then somebody told me it was from a Jim Rich question. I said, oh, okay, I got to figure out what the question was. And so I called Jim, and he sent me a video of that little 5-minute interview session that Correa has. And one thing about we've been able to discover in this modern times of horrible access in baseball, just like in every other sport. You can see why the beat writers in Houston love Correa, and you can see why the beat writers here do, because he's over there in the corner before the game for 5, 6, 8 minutes. Generally speaking, you can get a couple of pregame quotes, and there's Tyler Duffy got traded, so there was nobody else to talk to, or got dropped, and then after the game, he generally, if they wanted him, he'd come out and obviously he tell you something interesting, and this was something interesting. It'd be great to keep him, but there was never a chance that he wasn't going to become a free agent. So he's basically saying, I'm going to be a free agent. I'm going to be on a shelf in the Dior store, and if you want me, you better come in and pay the price. So.
Well, and it does beg the question, one, who's going to play shortstop for the Twins in 2023? And, two, you had a good line at the end, and it was something I was kind of thinking about. I mean, the Twins in general, if they have $35 million to spend, usually cut it up into 3 or 4 pieces and then go shop at TJ Maxx or Marshall's for their players, not the Dior store. But what are they going to do at shortstop if this ain't your guy? Because Royce Lewis is hurt, and I mean, you can find a stopgap, I guess.
Jermaine Palacios, I'll tell you that. But it's not Nick Gordon. He's not a defensive fielder. So I don't know. They'll probably have to go maybe they'll get the guy that they traded to the Yankees.
Kiner Falefa.
Yeah, because he might be on the market because they'll probably upgrade. Maybe Correa ends up there, although that would put them way once they pay Judge. I don't think even the Yankees are going to have enough money to pay anybody else. So, but yeah, that's the type of guy they're going to have to get to play next year. They're going to have to just, don't get Andrew, don't get some 33-year-old though. As I said on my thing, they love this Brooks Lee. He's already in Double-A. If you don't go and get a shortstop, rather than have all these rejects, take a look at him in spring training. Maybe he's not even close, right? But what the hell? Just have him in camp and see if he can play or not. But they're going to have to get a veteran too. Andrelton will be available again if they want to go get him. It's always I like watching him because he's from the planet Pluto. He's unbelievable.
Right.
He's the goofiest guy of all time. Although he's cooked now, but yeah, they're gonna have to get a shortstop. I don't know where.
The name that popped into my head was not that this guy's still around, obviously, but Jason Bartlett, a Jason Bartlett type.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Gardy, one of Gardy's great moves was when he wanted Jason Bartlett back and he put him in left field, on opening day or something. He damn near got killed out there playing left field.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know. They don't have one now.
No.
They're gonna go get one, but yeah, you know what? I'm trying to find a tweet I sent out in July when I turned on these guys. Really serious, and I said they're gonna finish 78 and 84. And I thought I said it on Twitter, but I can't find it. But
maybe what are they now? 77 and 82.
Yeah, it could be. I'd like to find it. I think it was 78 and 84. I said they're going to finish, and I got bad mouthed by the blogosphere for that one. So, but I guess when you consider they were tied for first place on September 4th, this has been a rather precipitous.
A month ago. Yeah, a month ago. They were
1 month
tied.
ago, tied for first. What is it now, 13? 12 or 13? 12,
yeah,
maybe.
It's unbelievable.
And they're now pretty well locked into third, right? I mean, unless they go in and, sweep the Whiteys or something.
Yes.
Not that it's any difference, but it is. I mean, the lineup they're setting out there now is an embarrassment to Double-A baseball. Contreras, you can't get him out of the lineup. Cave, you can't get him out of what the heck? I mean, it's a joke. I don't see Jim Swin, and God love him, and I have a completely different view of this team for next year. I don't see where the optimism is coming from.
No, I mean,
they got some pitchers. I mean,
yeah, that's the one thing I think is okay.
Yeah, but here's the deal. You can't go into a season thinking Louis Varland's going to pitch 160 innings and Josh Winder's going to pitch 160 innings. And
nobody on this team pitches 160 innings.
No, and were you the one when did you go look the starters, right? In 19 they had
five. Yeah, they had like 889 innings from the starters. They were sixth in the majors that year. And I think they had 5 guys that threw at least 146 innings, which is, kind of a low bar. But, you knew who was going to pitch every 5th day most of the time that year. And this year.
Yeah, Pineda was you said that was the 5th most.
Yes. And it was Pineda and Perez, I think. And Kyle Gibson and obviously then Odorizzi and
what changed in their philosophy? You looked at that team. That team won 101 games, and I know they did it mostly hitting home runs. But that team won 101 games by letting pitchers pitch 7 innings, right?
Yes.
What changed the philosophy that now we never want them to face the third time through the order? What I think happened in the 1 year was a pandemic year, so that was 60 games. What changed this philosophy to lean that heavily in your bullpen? Maybe it's the guys you signed, Bundy and Archer. You got to go back to sending a guy out there and telling him, I'll come out and visit you in the 7th and see if you can make it through the inning. It's this whole philosophy that they're on probation by the 4th inning is not. I went a tirade on it a couple of weeks ago, but it's not sustainable. Go back to whoever was making the decisions in 2019, and maybe it was Wes Johnson.
Yeah,
I was a hell of a lot smarter than who's ever making the decisions now. I'll tell you that.
Well, I think it's two things. I think it's the quality of the pitchers to a certain degree, and I think too they outsmarted themselves in the pandemic, where they got so worried that they were going to overthrow these guys that didn't get enough work in 2020, especially the minor leaguers who didn't pitch at all in any real game situations, that it's been 2 years now and they still haven't caught up to the idea that it's okay to let them throw now. And I think 2021 was maybe a little bit more understandable, but you know who led the team in innings pitched in 2021?
No.
Jose Barrios. And he got traded. Yeah. He got traded 2 months with 2 months left in the season.
Yeah, that's right. And everybody's, Jose's had some real clunkers. He was actually on a pretty good roll this month, and then his last time out, he gave up 8 runs in 2 innings. He's gotten hammered a lot, but he's still pitching. He still made every start. Okay? Yes, every start. Now he's only going to end up with a little less than 170 innings this year. So because he had a lot of short starts because he stunk, not because he got hooked early because they didn't want him to face. But obviously Toronto overpaid him, right? But the fact that but he would have still led this team. He would have pitched the same here as he did in Toronto.
Right,
would have led the team in innings, and you would have known he was going to be your starter every 5th day. So, they just have to get back to using starting pitchers. Like, Tampa uses them different than everybody else. Somehow they figured it out. Somehow they've worked it out, but it doesn't work anywhere else. So, and it's not working here because you don't have guys that smart.
Patrick, speaking of epic collapses, let's touch on the Loons really quick before we get out of here. Lost again to San Jose the other night.
San Jose. Holy, weren't they last place or something?
They're down there, yeah. And this is the thing too, Patrick. Their last 6 games, they've lost 5 and drawn 1. And I looked it up the other day. I think it's something like outscored like 14-2 in those 6 matches.
2 goals in 6 games. 2 goals in 6
something
games.
Like that's 2 goals, and they've given up 14, I think, which is that's a recipe to lose it. Adrian Heath, after the game, my friend John Marthaler texted me this quote because I missed it, on how the team doesn't have enough energy to win in a game like this. I wish I knew. Maybe it's the makeup of some of the people we've got. Maybe we've got to look at that.
Well, I wish I knew. If you don't know, who does? And he got a new contract, didn't he? He got like 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, somewhere in the season he did.
They gave him a new contract and they haven't won since. And the real soccer aficionados, the 3 guys I talked, they're not big Heath guys anyway. So
no.
You know that from having a soccer friends. There's some stuff about him they don't like. I wouldn't know from watching, but I did watch a little of the game yesterday just to make sure our
Saturday,
just to make sure our play-by-play guy was still breathless throughout without the whole game. Take a breath. What's that guy's name?
Callum.
It's okay. Take a deep breath. Then say what you want to. You don't have That's kind of the soccer deal, right? The action is so fantastic that I can't catch my breath. Is
Right.
that it? Anyway, yeah, it's quite an epic collapse. But Vancouver at home,
Yeah.
they got to beat Vancouver at home, don't they?
They should. I mean, and if they
only need a tie, right? To
not necessarily. I think.
I thought I read Zagoda's piece today. If they get a tie, they're in.
Is that true? Oh, maybe it's because of who's playing who.
Yeah, because Real Salt Lake is it Real Salt Lake or Real?
Real Salt Lake, yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at the standings here. Well, no.
I think those teams are playing each other. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah. So
Salt Lake plays Portland. So if the Loons draw, they would be tied with Portland, and I think that would give them that tiebreaker. Maybe that must be it.
Well, the pressure's on, and that's Sunday at 4.
Sunday at 4. Yes, decision day. Decision day.
All right. Well, yeah, quite an epic collapse. When have we had a team? Well, I was going to say, when have we had a team collapse like that? But I guess this year.
A month ago. Just a month ago, Patrick.
About, what is it, like 5 miles there? Target field, maybe 4,
yep.
4 or 5 miles, I guess. Yeah, this is collapse.
From green line to green line, baby.
How about if the Gophers end up 4-4 in the Big 4-5 in the Big Ten, and the Vikings fall on their face? We could come up. Randball could have some fun coming up with a title for a collapse town or something.
Yes, it's the wheels are already turning, Patrick. Let me tell you that the wheels are turning.
So I got to tell you, when I owned that little condo in Fort Myers, we had Claudia Garcia was our great gal. When she'd come in and clean it like once a month, and when we weren't there, we'd have her clean it a couple times during the summer, and make sure to get the worms out and stuff. But she'd go by and check it and everything. So I texted her, and she came back, roof blown off her house. Flooded, no water, no power, but she's staying in the house because there's so much thievery going on. So many people are going into houses that have been abandoned and stealing stuff. And she said they're pulling guns on each other at the gas stations, fighting over food and drink and ice and anything else they can. It's really bad down there. I guess it's I think we're reading about, we're looking at all the disasters, but we don't know how, desperate or crazy or, people are down there. According to Claudia, that was my report from there, but what a mess, man alive. Sanibel, the bridges down, people won't be able to get off that island without a boat for 5 months.
Wow.
It's what a mess.
Yeah. What a mess indeed. All right, Patrick. Well, appreciate all of this today, and we'll do this again in a week.
All right, Michael. See ya.
See ya.